Welcome to the Professional Edge. My name's Sean Todd, tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. I appreciate you listening into this great segment, which we are talking about why evaluate your risk. A lot of individuals only want to focus on all the positives, the market's reaching all-time highs, and it's easier and more fun to talk about the gains, the huge upside in the market, the potential for rewards. But no one ever wants to sit down and say, okay, why do I need to evaluate my risk? Well, that's part of the overall plan that you need to put in place, meaning what is your risk? What is your exposure? And a lot of times, protecting the downside risk of your gains inside your portfolio is as important, if not more important, than actually attaining the gains. Because as we all know, when you receive your monthly statement, that's all it is. It's a number on a piece of paper. It's not guaranteed because the very next month, we could see that value sliced in half. So let's understand what we need to do to evaluate your risk. What is your risk of loss? Well, a mutual fund has a diversification, meaning it's going to hold 50 to 75 individual shares of a company, and therefore that makes that mutual fund less risky. That's called investment diversification. Now, you may have a mutual fund that is in the technology sector, and we know tech has been a great sector to be in the past 3-5 years. However, you got to also look and say, okay, what comes up may have to come down. So what is your risk profile on that? Have you reevaluated your risk on what is the potential downturn that you could suffer or you could actually stomach within your portfolio to be able to sustain your safe and secure retirement? And that's what we do at estate management counselors. We sit down, we evaluate the portfolio, and we say, okay, if there is a 50% downturn in your stock portfolio, how will that affect your retirement? That's a key question. Nobody wants to ever talk about that. But if you're doing the good counsel and advice, which we do at estate management counselors, we have that hard conversation. And we say, okay, are you willing to have all of this exposed in the market? And are you okay with a 36% drop in 3 months? We run those numbers, and historically we say, based on where you are, the worst quarter performance, you were down 36% with these holdings. Are you okay with that? And a lot of times a client will look at us and say, that would be pretty hard to stomach because I am in year 2 of my retirement and this money has to last me, and this is the first generation that has to plan for 20 years in retirement. So once we evaluate that risk, what can we do to actually offset some of that risk? Well, obviously, we temper down the equity exposure within the portfolio. We position some money in cash, which is fine. Cash is paying roughly 3-4% returns. It's not going to make you rich, but we're preserving that principle. And a lot of times when you hit that retirement, the preservation of your capital is more important than getting the return on your capital because you don't have those years to work. So if you want to have this consultation with us, the first one's free. It's on the house. Give our office a call at 404-250-9798. That number again, 404-250-9798. So what is that risk within the portfolio? The other risk which you have to evaluate is your longevity risk. Well, that says that you, as this next generation, have to plan for 20 years in retirement. It's not the day of buying a lazy boy at 65 and you're expected to be dead by 68. That was a simple plan, simple concept, because Social Security kicked in at 65. You had a company pension, and by 68, you were supposed to be out of here, checked out totally. Well, now this is a new paradigm, and that shifts, and it says, okay, you are responsible for your 20 years in retirement. Social Security is going to provide a little bit, but what else are you doing? You may be one of those historical dinosaurs that qualify for a lifetime pension, and then making that pension election, whether you're going to just do it on your life or on joint lives, you and your spouse, or are you going to go with a period certain, no benefit to your spouse, or are we going to go 100%, 100%, which means you and your spouse would get the same amount whether you passed away 30 days into your retirement or your spouse passed away, you would still be entitled to your pension during your life. So that is your longevity risk that we have to evaluate, and we run that model. And the key component of running that longevity risk is we all know that the market has not a steady rate of return. So each and every year it's not going to return 7%, 8%, 9%. It's going to have a varied rate of return. So we do what is called a Monte Carlo analysis, which does a computer simulation of 1,000 different random rates of return. And it says, okay, what is the probability of your success that your portfolio would survive 1,000 random rates of return over a 20-year period? And it comes out as a probability. And if the probability is, let's say, 30% or less, we need to probably evaluate A, your spend, or B, your risk tolerance. So again, that risk factor comes in, and we got to make that an objective decision and readjust your portfolio. Now, there's a portfolio readjustment that's necessary. First place to look would be within your IRA account. We can make those adjustments and not have any tax consequence inside the IRA, which is ideal. Or if we're planning on moving some stuff around in A for supplementing your retirement income, we're going to draw from your IRA, and then we're going to draw a little bit from your after-tax account. We may have to take a tax hit, but being a CPA, we are licensed to give our clients investment advice and tax advice that is coordinated. Now, stockbrokers are not licensed to give tax advice. CPAs are not licensed to give investment advice. So working with estate management counselors, this is that melding of the disciplines, being a tax attorney, being a CPA, and being a certified financial planner. We are licensed to give that tax advice to our clients, and that helps the client net more after-tax spendable dollars. It just makes financial sense. So if you are not getting integrated counsel and advice, because all financial decisions have a tax impact. Once you realize that, why are you still just getting investment advice that is not coordinated with your tax advice? That is risky, in my opinion. To start that conversation, give our office a call at 404-250-9798. That number again, 404-250-9798. So we have this longevity risk. We do the Monte Carlo simulation, and it says, okay, your range, your portfolio could actually be as low as X, or it could be as high as Y. So inside here, during this random rates of return, you could project to be in between this marginal amount. That's perfect. Now, that output then dictates and says, okay, there's a 70% or an 80% probability of success through 1,000 scenarios of random rates of return that your portfolio would sustain itself and you would have that successful, secure retirement. So a lot of our listeners here on the Professional Edge have never done that Monte Carlo analysis, and that is very vital to understanding the longevity risk. Now, this also addresses the next risk that we need to talk about is the sequence of return risk. So if you started your retirement in 2025, you're great. 2025 has been an incredible year. 2026 is off to a great start as well. So you think, okay, my $1 million portfolio is going to return 20%. That's $200,000. Pay a little bit of tax. I can spend roughly $12,000 a month. Wow. Okay, that's all great. But what if we hit a point to where something like COVID comes out? Well, you retire in January. When COVID hit, the market corrected by 30% within 1 month. So immediately your $1 million portfolio is down to $700,000. And you, as a just recently retired retiree, are already saying, wow, do I need to go back to work? I don't want to go back to work. Why didn't I understand this a little bit more? So that's where setting up this retirement plan on understanding what your spend is going to be and addressing the risk of the sequence of return risk. Because if you start your retirement and now it's down 30%, well, if you're drawing $8,000 per month on a portfolio that is now $700,000, well, that's more than a 10% withdrawal rate of return, or a withdrawal rate, which is going to exceed your rate of return, which therefore means you're going to impact your principal inside that portfolio even more. So if these risks are bringing your attention to you need to evaluate your risk. That's the conversation you need to focus on during this session. Give our office a call at 404-250-9798. That number again, 404-250-9798. My name's Sean Todd, tax attorney, CPA, certified financial planner, host here on The Professional Edge, and I appreciate you listening in.
With today's financial markets, are you getting the personal and professional attention you and your money deserve? Clients of estate management counselors benefit from having one set of professionals advise them on their tax, estate planning, and investment advice. We call that the Professional Edge. Sean Todd is a tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. With over 15 years' experience, he welcomes the opportunity to assist you in preparing for retirement, implement effective tax planning strategies, and to help you properly plan your estate. His radio show, The Professional Edge, is aired weekly on Sundays at 9 a.m. If you're interested in meeting with Sean, call his office at 877-654-9798. That's 877-654-9798. Do you want to feel more confident about making the right investment, tax, and estate planning decisions? Today, these decisions are more complex than ever. Have you thought about working with a professional advisor and not sure who to turn to? Not sure what qualifies one to be an advisor? Sean Todd is more than qualified as a tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. Sean is with Estate Management Counselors. Estate Management Counselors operates as an independent fee-only investment advisory firm. They're dedicated to gaining a personal understanding of their clients' objectives and implementing professional counsel and advice to achieve those objectives. So take a second to talk with Sean Todd to learn how you can benefit from their multidisciplinary practice where they coordinate their clients' legal, tax, and investment strategies into one comprehensive and integrated plan to enhance and protect their clients' financial security. You can reach Estate Management Counselors and speak with Sean Todd by calling 1-877-654-9798. That's 1-877-654-9798.